Today we will do a slightly more moving around physical practice and our usual wind down at the end, which we love. And our info session, Nikki is going to take us through today, our special guest for the day. For those of you who, I don't know if anyone has not taken a session with Nikki, but she is the queen of essential oils. So I'm excited to have her on the call and fill in the information on our essential oils for us.
Yeah, so I don't know if everyone has their oils. If you don't, not to worry. I appreciate we're a number of weeks in and you might be scraping the bottom of the oily barrel at this point. And I will say, if you would like to get any more oils, if you're running low, or if you decide after tonight you'd like to kind of, add a little bit more to your daily practice, just let me know. And either I can send you out a little care package or we can rendezvous at the hospice and we'll make it happen. So no worries. We have lots of oils, but for tonight's purposes, no stress. We're going to be doing a little bit of aromatherapy, and often as we do, a little bit of acupressure points with our oils, and just really talking about ways to incorporate aromatherapy as a complementary modality. Just going to have Mary come in. Here we go. So everyone got a little info sheet with your original Rest to Rise kit, and it gave a little overview of our wild orange and our lavender, which I have with me. And if you have yours, you can have them both open and at the ready if you'd like. And I would encourage you to, if you need to have a tissue ready, you're welcome to do that as well. But if you'd like to kind of just sniff and go and not have to worry about having it on your skin, if you're somebody who doesn't enjoy that, you don't have to. You can have it on a tissue and be just fine as well. So we'll just get settled in. And what I'll do is I'll just kind of read over the sheet that you already have, and then we're going to be just implementing a few practices with our oils that we can be applying through the day, with the mindset that we can truly start this before we even get out of bed in the morning. We can start setting the tone for the rest of the day, and that can be certainly achieved in a lovely way with our oils. If you envision a little bit of wild orange, and if you have that, I would encourage you to put a little drop on a tissue or on your hand and just give it a sniff. And you can see how that could very easily in the morning be a very nice way to uplift and shift your mood. Before you've even gotten out of bed, you can be enjoying some of that uplifting scent. It's a very gentle smell, beautiful to be using in the morning, beautiful to be using in the evening. If you're somebody who's struggling with insomnia, absolutely can be using that as well in the wee hours when you're awake, especially if you are navigating worrying thoughts, if that's, nagging things that visit you when you're nice and comfy in the dark. This would be a nice oil to be using because you can feel almost right away a shift that happens. You can, it lightens your energy. It's also a lovely oil in terms of supporting your immune system. And what does that mean? It means it's an oil that's very high in a chemical constituent called limonene, which has been shown to activate our white blood cells. So it can help support our immune system that way, especially if we are navigating stressful times, if we are dealing with prolonged interrupted sleep. That can impact our immune system, of course. So this is just a very subtle way of supporting ourselves. And I will say, with aromatherapy, it is a beautiful complementary therapy. I think it complements yoga. I think it complements breathwork practices, connection to nature. It's lovely that way. Journaling, mindfulness, all of those things, it's a complementary practice. And I will say this as well, because I think it's important. certainly in the context of our group gathering today, for the purposes of if sleep has been an issue. Also, what belongs in that toolbox as well, apart from mindfulness and yoga and breath work, aromatherapy can complement if you are using medications for anxiety, if you're using medications for sleep, because we often feel that it's like one position or another. You know, I need to be all natural. This is bad. This isn't bad. I wholeheartedly encourage that if you are at a time right now that an important self-care tool in your toolbox is medication and support from your doctor, beautiful. All the aromatherapy will do will just kind of gently enhance your mindset and your mood, and that can only be helpful. So I'm certainly not a gal that's saying, please take this over that. Aromatherapy is a beautiful along with modality. So just keeping that in mind. So our lovely wild orange, also beautiful for soothing digestion, which again in the evening can be an issue when we're feeling stressed. It helps with digestion. It helps relax the tummy muscle, and anything to do with kind of irritable bowel or anything like that, it's a relaxing agent. So a very simple practice in the evening, tucking into bed, just putting a little bit of oil on your hand. All of your oil is diluted with coconut oil, and just rubbing it on your belly clockwise, and it's just a nice soothing practice. And touch is a nice thing. You'll start to feel warmth and relaxing, so it's a nice way to use that. Very easy. What else do we want to know about our wild orange? I think we're going to keep it there. And equally can be used alongside with lavender throughout the day for the idea of micro-aligning. So what I mean by that, and we've touched on this in the past if we've done aromatherapy together before, is that throughout the day, after moments of stress, stressful phone call, stressful situation, stressful bout with our own thoughts, to micro-align back into a more balanced state, you would use that oil again to kind of bring you back to a place of feeling a little bit more in your body, a little bit more relaxed. These beautiful oils do a great job of balancing out our mindset, literally. They're great to be using in terms of the activation of our frontal cortex and our amygdala, and that lovely connection that happens between the two when we are feeling rested and not stressed. It's that lovely example of getting information from our environment, and when we have that nice flow between the two, we have that example that we talked about before, snake and stick. We're able to identify what's a threat, what's not a threat, what's a threat, what's not a threat. Well, under times of stress and not a lot of sleep, that connection gets glitchy. So we can almost be overactivated, too much stress, and we can't kind of find our way to come out of that, or too low and not able to kind of recognize when we maybe need to be a little bit more activated. So also an easy way to keep that in mind, and it's effortless, it's happening. You don't have to be efforting to have that. It's just happening as you're smelling that in. It's just coming in and you're experiencing that as you go. So it's lovely. With our lavender, I don't know if people have lavender. Lavender can be a wonderfully classic scent for people. It can also be a scent that people have associations with. I would encourage people just to experience the oil as it is. Just observe the scent. You don't have to love it for you to love what it does for you. It's a lovely, relaxing oil. Floral oils are very harmonizing, nurturing, nourishing kind of oils. Lavender is a great one to be using in the evening. Part of its chemical constituent profile does have a little bit of a gentle sedating effect. Nothing over the top or harsh, but it does allow your body systems to start to relax, which is wonderful. So it can be used as a pillow spray, a drop or two on a tissue inside your pillowcase. Easy application around that. I will say there is a great researched technique. It was actually a functional neurologist who came up with this, and it's around that kind of hack when we're stuck in that amygdala hijack, that we're really, really activated on our right side of the brain. That, as I always kind of like to say, it's like you fire a confetti gun and you try and pick up all the confetti as it's going. That's how it feels when our anxiety has really gotten away from us. And the idea is just to take a little bit of lavender oil, and if you put it on your left side, your left nostril, and you breathe it in that way, it corresponds with the left side of your brain and activates that more logical side of your brain, calmer, sequential. So you're not fighting the anxiety. The anxiety is there. What you're actually doing is activating the other part of your brain that's a little bit steadier. And it has this kind of balancing and harmonizing effect. So worth trying in those moments where you feel like, okay, I'm really feeling like this is the horse is out of the barn, as they say. Don't fight that. Just bring other things online to balance that. What we will move on to do are just some easy practices, and this will be in our summary this week that Gwendolyn's going to be sending out, just to try and see what works for you. And again, these can be done with oils on your hands or not. They can also be done if you have a little bit of oil on a tissue. You can be kind of smelling with the tissue and then using your hand on your skin as well. So you don't have to be covering yourself in oil. You want to be mindful of that as we move into the summer months anyways. These oils that you have are very diluted, but it's important to be careful not to be putting tons of oil on your face and then going out into the sun. The first one that I would say would be a little bit of wild orange and lavender together. If you were to put a drop on your hands, if you like to do that, and rub your hands together, and you just will be doing a slow figure 8 on your forehead. And when you're doing that, you're activating all kinds of lovely meridians and acupressure points, and you're signaling to yourself to relax. It's very soothing. We often do this kind of thing on little kids to get them to calm down. And again, what you're doing as well as a happy side effect is that you're encouraging blood flow to your prefrontal cortex, which again is that kind of more balancing situation when you're feeling anxious, stressed, angry, any of those things. You're just activating a different part of your brain to come online, kind of coming away a little bit from that fight, flight, freeze, and into a kind of more calm, focused way of being. So this is a nice one to do, and you can do that, just a few times if you want, but you'll almost notice the more that you do it, the calmer you start to be. And it actually, first, it's hard when you're stressed to be embracing it, but the more you do it, it's calming. And from that one, you can just slide down to your temples, and you do a nice slow little activation on your temples again. This is a wonderful meridian and acupressure point. Your temple is also a pulse point, so the skin is a little bit thinner, so the oil actually absorbs a little bit quicker. There's blood vessels and all kinds of great things closer to the surface, so it's a good spot. From this spot, you can move to behind your ears. Again, that kind of pulse point is a nice spot. That little mastoid bone right behind your ear, and just pull down. And again, it's just very soothing. It's signaling to your body to relax, signaling to your nervous system that it can come off of high alert. And another pulse point that you can do is with your wrists if you need to. Again, classic. You're just rubbing them together, and you can be inhaling the oil, and it's just truly, it's just in a few minutes of practice that you can just feel your whole kind of stress temperature starting to come down. So easy. If you were doing this in bed, before bed or upon waking, you could even put a little bit of oil behind your knees. It's also a good pulse point on that spot, and bring your knees into chest and do a little kind of wiggle and roll in bed, and it's a nice spot as well. Another nice way to be using your oils is, officially what they call kind of positive aromatic conditioning, which simply means that you're using essential oils and aromatherapy during things that you enjoy doing, journaling, yoga, breath work, because it starts to lay down different tracks in your brain, and you start to make associations that when you're smelling that smell, you're like, oh yes, this is something that I like. This is something that my body likes. So it's a very easy way to do that, and very quickly. You very quickly start to make different kinds of association with scent. So very worthwhile trying to be doing all around that bedtime routine. It's a lovely thing to be doing. So add it to what you're already doing. And it becomes, something that's easy, enjoyable, and repeatable. We will be doing it more and more. So again, you're spending a little bit more time throughout your day feeling better and centered and happy, which is always good. And I think we will do one more, just because I don't want to take up too much time. Gwendolyn's wonderful yoga practice. But this practice I really enjoy, and I think it can be done, before bed. I think it can be done in the morning. I think this is a particularly supportive practice to be doing in times that we're really struggling. We're kind of acknowledge that we're having a hard time. We're accepting that that's where we're at. And then we're going to be attending to ourselves. And what you would do is you could choose either one of these oils or any essential oil that you love, that you actually really enjoy the scent of. You would put a little bit on your hand, and we're going to be using 2 acupressure points together. We're going to be using the byway point, which is right on the top of your head. That's called GB20. And that point itself, if you're using it as an acupressure point, it's a great acupressure point for headache, for fatigue, for tension. This is a point that you would be using one way or another to help that. It can also be useful for tinnitus or tinnitus, depending on how you like to pronounce that. In acupressure, it's a point that's used to help support that as well. And the easiest way to find that point is if you put your thumb right on the tippy top of your ear and just lay your finger on the top of your head. You're going to land where that byway point is. So it kind of looks a bit funny, but you'll hit it and you'll feel that. You'll feel that little peak, and just around there you'll get it. So you're going to put a hand on here, and then you're going to put a hand on CV17, which is right on your sternum. And again, this is a great acupressure point. It helps loosen up your chest, encourages breathing. And what you can do in a moment of struggle is just close your eyes and hold these 2 points. And our byway point really connects us to our future self. And our lovely little CV17 point on our chest connects us to our past self. And you can take a moment and borrow joy, clarity, calmness from both versions of your own self. So in a moment of struggle, you can borrow that kind of knowledge that from your future self, that you've gotten through this and you're okay. You can borrow the knowledge from your past self that you've dealt with hard things and you're okay. And it's a very nice way to settle in. Very nice to be adding some breathwork practice to that. But you can be doing that in the morning. You can be doing that in the evening, and it recenters you, and it connects your heart and your head. And it's a very lovely thing to be doing. And I would finish with, just because we're hanging out here on this sternum spot, CV17, right on your sternum, I like to call that your fragile handle with care. So you can think about during your day, revisiting that for yourself, and you have like a big sticker that you would stick on a box, fragile handle with care. When you're feeling that come up in yourself, take that point again and just really acknowledge that, okay, I am fragile. I'm handling myself with care, and you will start to feel yourself calm down. You'll actually feel your heart rate start to calm down. You'll feel a little bit refocused, and it will give you an opportunity to shift into probably a calmer state of mind. So those are my fast days, and we will be sending those out along with a few others in the summary that we've probably certainly touched on in the past. And if we've not done aromatherapy together, they're easy, and I would wholeheartedly encourage you to be trying them out for yourself and seeing if you start to feel that shift in your day. And with that, Gwendolyn, back to you.
All right, wonderful, thank you. I want to just on the heels of that say one of our concepts for today is this idea of fragile handle with care, or in yoga, ahimsa. This is the Sanskrit word in yoga meaning non-harming. So that as we go through our practices today and just in general, we never want to be causing harm, right? Now that doesn't mean that we just live a life of indulgence and whenever you feel like chocolate cake, you eat a whole chocolate cake, because then we're going to get a stomach ache in the future, right? So it's that balance of what is ultimately the best possible path with the information that we have. And in terms of our yoga practice, that means if I give you more than one option, please don't let me overwhelm you and you think, oh, I have to try all the options. Pick one or two, try them and see how you feel. And know that all of us will pick something a little bit different because this is more of a sensation-based practice and less of an alignment-based practice. So if you've done yoga elsewhere where people say things like put your foot on exactly a 37-degree angle for this pose and stack your bones this way, that is an alignment-based practice. Yes, we have some basics for safety and alignment in what we cover here, but it's more of a sensation-based practice. So if I say we can do the pose with the arms bent or the arms straight, you can do them with the arms bent or the arms straight, whichever one you prefer. So as we go through all of our different options, keep that in mind, our concept of ahimsa, non-harming, and being kind to ourselves. I think sometimes with yoga, especially if you're of a certain generation, maybe not young people today, you're constantly thinking about doing things the right way, the way the teacher is doing them, right? You either climb the rope to the top and ring the bell and get an A, or you don't and you get an F. No, you get a participation medal no matter what you do. And if you climb the rope to the top and you ring the bell, you are no more enlightened than the rest of us, okay? It's a little different because it is more of a practice. It is an experience, not, as they say, aren't you a little bit worried that what doctors do they call practice? Shouldn't they be good at it by now? It's kind of the same with yoga. It is a practice. It changes from day to day. We are already good at it by now anyways. So with that in mind, we are going to start seated and then finish lying down. We'll do a little bit more movement than we usually do with the idea that this is the kind of practice that you can do when you have some energy that you need to burn up. So not the sort of yoga poses for when you're half asleep, but maybe you're feeling a little bit restless or tense and tight, and we'll do more flowing than we usually do to work with that kind of energy. All right, so when you're ready, let's get to where we are going to do our stuff, and we'll start seated. And I'm gonna throw my music on. And you can take a moment if you would like. We have been starting with a little bit of journaling. If you would like to do a brain dump, or if there's anything on your mind that you're really thinking of that's distracting you, or sometimes when we start meditation or yoga, you get a really great idea. That's another good use that we could have a journal for, so that you don't feel, sometimes as you're falling asleep at night, you get ideas of what you have to do the next day. So by all means, we can have our journal close by. And if anything is weighing on your mind, or if you think of anything you'd like to remember tomorrow, feel free to take a moment to write any of that down. And no rush. If you're writing for a few minutes, that's totally fine. And then when you're ready, we'll just start seated. So option to write or option to sit. Option to close our eyes. And if ever you do decide to keep your eyes open, you're worried that you're going to fall asleep, or you find that closing the eyes is really distractive, we just simply relax the muscles around our eyes instead, and we can actually just look down. The act of simply looking down can send a message to our bodies and brains to lower our energy level. And yes, the act of looking up can help to perk up our energy level. So let's start either eyes closed or eyes down. And we can take a moment here either journaling or noting what thoughts are passing through our minds. Whatever thoughts pop up, we simply make note of them. We don't need to tell ourselves a story. And then we move on and see what other thoughts pop up. We could think of this as our thoughts as bubbles waiting to be popped. And let's come into our mudra or hand position for today. So this is our Apana mudra. We take our middle two fingers to our thumb. So ring finger and middle finger to our thumb on both hands. And then we leave our backs of our hands on our knees. And this is our Apana mudra. And in Sanskrit, the language of yoga, Apana is sort of a downward moving energy. So along with our eyes looking down, we can bring our energy down with this hand position. It may be interesting to note how much tension you're holding in your hands. So sometimes out of habit, we hold this with like so much muscular effort. And if you are, let's relax that a bit. So we're using just enough muscular energy to hold the hand position, but no extra. Picturing our energy coming down. Let's use our breath to help with this. We'll start with a basic 3-part breath. So we inhale, filling belly, ribs, and then chest. Exhale, releasing and reversing that pattern. Chest, ribs, belly. We might like to picture filling our lungs like we would fill a glass of water. Inhaling, filling our lungs from the bottom thirds, the middle third, and then the upper third. Exhaling, we let it all go. So this visualization helps us to get a deeper, fuller, complete breath, filling lungs from the bottom to the top, feeling the expansion in both the belly and the ribs. One is not any more important than the other. And we can count as we breathe. So we may be counting to ourselves, inhaling 1, 2, 3, as we fill from the bottom to the top. Exhaling 3, 2, 1. Going in your own pace, in your own time. Taking a moment to notice how you're feeling now, in the present, forgetting about past and not anticipating the future. You may like to pick a word to describe how you're feeling. When you're ready, we can release this hand position. We can open our eyes. And let's start to get moving. So I am sitting on the floor. You could be sitting on a chair. And of course, feel free to modify these movements however you like. Let's begin by warming up our shoulders. So we'll inhale to circle sweep overhead. And exhale to bring hands to heart center. So we're drawing energy in on the inhale. But then we can also be noticing how, since it's the end of the day, our energy level is dropping on the exhale. So we're feeling engaged, yet calm. And if we don't feel that way yet, we can imagine that we're feeling calm and engaged, or sort of invite those feelings into our bodies. Maybe saying in our minds or out loud, I am ready to feel calm and engaged. Let's do one more. Leave hands at heart center. And we'll go through our movements of the spine. So this can be a good way to wake ourselves up in the morning or to get rid of any restless energy in the evening. So we'll inhale to start. And it doesn't really matter which way we go, but with our exhale, let's twist to the right. So we're using some strength in our core. We can inhale back through center. And with our exhale, let's twist to the left. Inhale, we sit tall. And exhale, really draw the belly in. Often we talk about using our core muscles in a twist, and let's keep going at your own speed. And we think core and we think, okay, my abs are doing all the work, but actually our back muscles are working as well. So let's see if we can notice one side of the back working at a time to draw us into the twist. So as we twist right side of the back is working. We can pull that shoulder blade back to feel it, or pull our elbow back, and then as we twist left, the left side of the back is working. We'll go once more each way. Pulling from both back and belly. Moving at whatever a perfect pace is for you. And then this next time through, option to hold. And it's up to you. We can hold still pulling from our strength, or we may like to release our hands here. but as long as we're not yanking ourselves into the pose. So let's pull from our inner core strength to keep us here. We'll hold one more round of breath. And let's take it to the other side. We'll inhale to reset our posture, maybe our shoulders. And let's take it the other way. We can hold here, pulling from our internal strength, or we can release our hands for a little support. And it is typical to turn the head in the direction of the twist. If that makes you dizzy, you can always keep your head forward. And let's bring it back through center. We'll take our spines side to side. So let's start with just the movements of the spine. We're focusing on movements of the spine, and sometimes we get distracted by our arms. So we can picture our spines like a straight line when we're here. And then as we side bend, like the letter C, we come back through center, and then we side bend the other way. So somebody once said, picture a garden hose. We want that nice, long, smooth bend in the garden hose. We don't want to kink the garden hose and just sort of cut ourselves off. We want the water to flow through. So we sit up tall first, and then arch up and over. The muscles of our neck should still be working. Of course, whenever you're ready, we can add a hand if you would like. So whichever way we're leaning, the opposite arm traditionally or conventionally comes up and over to help us expand one side of our rib cage. Our other hand can be helpful for support, supporting our body weight, but we don't want to unnecessarily be dumping all of our body weight on there. So for more core challenge, we could be reaching across. But remembering that, yes, our main idea is movements of the spine and matching breath to movement, inhaling as we lean, exhaling as we come back through center, and everything else just icing on the cake. We can go once more each way. And we'll meet back in the center. We'll come back through center. And let's do a seated cat and cow here. That's our last movement of the spine. If you prefer to do a regular cat and cow on all fours, be my guest. I'll turn sideways just to show you, but we are doing another bend front and back in our spine. So we start with cat, taking the center of our backs to the wall behind us. And then cow, taking the center of our chest to the wall in front of us. So in most people, the rib cage area of the spine is the most sort of stuck and tight. So I like to put the most focus there. Generally, our neck is pretty pliable and flexible and has a lot of movement. So it usually doesn't need as much work. And then our tailbone kind of area can usually benefit from not the tuck under, but from reaching our tails back, can keep us strong through our low back muscles and flexible through the low back as well. But pay attention to your body. Notice how it feels for you. We'll flow a few more times each way and see how it works. You might like to focus on one area more than another, a little bit faster, a little bit slower. And then let's pause and finish in this open position in cow or seated cow. And if we are seated, we can actually put our fingertips behind us to help us lift more and stretch the front of the shoulder. All right, we'll come back through center. And let's make our way into Yogi's choice, child's pose, or downward facing dog. So if we have any props around, we can move them. You may possibly like to put a block or two at the top of the mat if you have a block or a bolster. And if you have nothing else, I just have my water bottle. We could have that close by for a little extra support. And then once we're back in child's or down dog, we could have some free-flowing movement here. So maybe child's, we want to shake our hips off side to side or walk our hands side to side. If we're in downward dog, we could be pedaling out our heels. Or again, wagging our tails, shifting the hips side to side. And I'll let you know, we're gonna move into lunges. So you may like to come up to standing for this one, but I'll show you how to get here from child's pose or downward dog. We can take one foot, I'm starting with my right foot, in between our hands. So in a regular mat yoga class, this is, I would say, a pretty common position to be in a runner's lunge. You may like to have a block or a water bottle under your hand. If it's uncomfortable on the knee, we could have some extra padding underneath the knee. But we'll do another one of these kind of free flows, shifting forward and back. It's kind of a funny one, but often the front of the hip gets really tight, and we might not even notice it, but the rest of the body can relax after we get into that hip, and it can help with sleep. Now, if you do not want to put weight on the front of your knee, we of course could come up to standing and do the same kind of thing, shifting the hip forward and then shifting back into a hamstring stretch. Shifting the hip forward and then shifting back into a hamstring stretch. So one of the nice things about sticking with the same pose for so many flows forward and back is that it gives me time to show you different ways of doing it and you time to try them all out. Now, if by chance you were seated in a chair, we can actually hold the pose to get into that hip in a very similar manner. I don't know if anybody is in a chair ever, but we actually just let one hip, we sit kind of sideways in the chair, and we get that one leg back. You could sit off the edge of your bed as well, and we get that same kind of length in the front of the hip. You might like to do some movement or just stay still. Okay, we've been here a while. To switch sides, Yogi's choice, we can rest back into downward dog or child's. Sometimes it's nice to reach one leg back and give it a shake, coming out of child's. And we'll make our way to the other side. So from down dog or child's, we can take the opposite foot, your left if you're on the same side as me. Drop the back knee, maybe give it some support with a bolster, a cushion, or folding the mat under. And we're ready to shift front and back, maybe using a block or something else relatively sturdy to help us with our body weight. We can have our hands to thigh. Some people like to come all the way down to the floor. The floor happens to be very sturdy to help us with our pose. Keep going, but for good measure, I will show us the other variations. Shifting forward and then back from a standing position might look a little bit different. We might be changing the shape of our stance, the sides of our stance. And if we are seated, we have to turn sideways off the corner of the chair and then slide one leg out and back. We could do a little movement or simply hold the pose. It's tougher to flow from a chair position. But it is a nice variation to do these seated because we could just do it on the edge of the bed and then when we're ready, drift right into sleep, right? make our way back into, again, child's or downward facing dog. We might want to shake off the leg that we were just working on from child's or down dog. And it might feel good from a child's pose to shift forward and get some length in the hips, almost like a kneeling plank position, reaching forward. It's a lot more weight on the wrists, so please do take care of that. You might want to skip it or just make it more comfortable. And to keep going with the length in the front of the hips, let's all come all the way down onto our bellies. And if by chance you were seated in a chair and wanted to stand up to get the same length in the front of the hips, we can. And we'll do a variation of what's sometimes called sleeping crocodile. We're going to stack our hands underneath our forehead. So there's not too much to do while we're here. We can notice the pressure of our forehead against our hands. And feel free to take a look at me and then close your eyes. I often stay up so that I can project my voice better. It's easier, the sound gets picked up better than if I am right down into the mat. But we're pretty much just relaxing here. Forehead on the back of the hands. Forearms, elbows, and the rest of the body rests on the mat. Might like to turn the head side to side to get a little forehead massage. We could shake our hips off side to side to loosen up the hips. And often we can be more aware of our breath when we are using the ground or the floor to help us out. So we're probably not doing much of a belly breath since we are compressing our bellies, but we can breathe into our backs at this moment, feeling the ribs of our back lift and lower as we breathe. We may also like to bend the legs and windshield wipe side to side. Noticing where that restless energy is in our bodies and providing it a way to leave. One final option that's probably not the common favorite, but we could do it seated or standing. Very similar to cow pose is just to come up on our forearms, a variation of Sphinx, to lengthen our bellies and reach our hearts forward one more time. Feel free to stay on your belly, whatever pose you're in, a little while longer, but when you're ready, we will make our way back to child's or downward facing dog, or you may even prefer seated pose to get some movement a little differently in our bodies. So I know sometimes it can be uncomfortable to lie like this. So yeah, we could be shifting back to child, shaking those hips up out again, coming up into down dog. Sometimes it takes a while to get back up. We might also like to do a windshield wipe from a seated position. But so that you know where we're going, take maybe another 30 seconds here and we will meet in a seated position. Okay, so this is supposed to be one of the best things that you can do to help you sleep. So I mentioned this term Apana, a kind of downward moving energy. One of the best things we can do is either a forward fold or a wide-legged forward fold. Wide-legged forward fold is very few people's favorite pose. I know a lot of you, when I did your intake, you're like, this is it. I can't get any further than this. And that's actually probably more common than to be very bendy. That's not a get out of jail free card. It just means that it's something that we can work with. But for today, let's say yogi's choice. You can choose a regular old forward fold, noticing what it is that you like about it and what you feel in your body sort of energetically dropping, or a wide-legged forward fold in any of its variations. So we can take the feet closer, wider. We could sit on top of a cushion if you like. We can bend the knees, either or. This will be almost our last seated pose. So we know we're going down to the floor after this. Sitting tall, and then when we're ready, folding forward. We can use our sinking breath here. Normal inhale. Maybe we feel the body lift slightly. And then with our exhale, encouraging this sinking feeling. Seeing if we drop lower into the pose. And let's see if we can be honest and kind with ourselves. It is okay to do either variation of the pose, but in the name of non-harming, let's choose the one that you think will benefit you the best today. Either or. All right, when we've had enough of this one, we can gather our legs back in. And again, option to maybe windshield wipe the legs out, or just to move the body in the opposite direction. Again, lifting our heart, similar to seated cow. And we will start to make our way to lie on our backs. Again, no rush. If you want an extra layer, a sweater, sock, something like that. And then let's meet lying on our backs. And then once we're down here, again, maybe some free-flowing movement. We can draw knees to chest. Might feel nice to hold our ankles and circle our ankles or rock side to side. Kind of like we're doing a giant cannonball, we can hold behind our thighs or across our shins, giving ourselves a hug and letting the knees come wide. And then let's hold just behind the right leg and stretch the left out. Give it a big hug. This is supposed to help stimulate digestion, and it is a variation of Apana pose. So it gives us that sort of downward moving energy benefit. We can gather our legs together and switch sides, giving our opposite leg a big hug, pressing it into our bellies. Another way to help us be more aware of our breath is to feel the body with the body. So pressing belly to thigh, noticing our breath in our bellies. Once more, let's gather our legs in. And then from knees to chest, we'll simply release our legs. Wherever they are is totally fine. And we can lift our hips up into bridge pose. We might like a little movement here, lifting and lowering. But again, we get that length out through the front of the hip and thigh, which often gets really tight and might feel kind of restless and puts us into sort of this fight or flight position. So maybe if we open that line of the body up, we can breathe more easily and send the message to our bodies that we are safe. We may even like to say to ourselves, out loud or in our minds, I am safe. We can go ahead and lower down. And then we may like to finish with a twist today. We already did a fair amount of twisting. It was a bit more active to use up some of our energy, and we'll do a very passive twist here. So maybe we're familiar with this now. Our knees to chest pose. We'll hold behind just the right leg, extend the left leg. We can again push our thigh into our bellies. And to come into our twist, to keep our spines in a safer position, technically, we should push our right foot down. So as we come into our twist, we come onto the left side of the pelvis. So we kind of pick our butts up and out of the way as we move into our twist. And you may notice that it feels more open. You feel like you can move into it more. And if you are new to yoga, you've never done a supine twist before, we will take the right knee across to the left side of the body. Before we were working on really pulling from our abdominal muscles, let's do the opposite here. We can let the belly soften. We may even like to take a hand to the belly. And feel the movement of breath in our bellies. We'll use just a little bit of core control to pull ourselves back through center. And let's do the same thing on the other side. From knees to chest. One leg in, give it a big hug. Other leg out. And in order to get into that twist, we can either push down and shift our hips as we're twisting, or we can move our hips before we twist. So if it's my left leg that's bent, I'm just going to pick my bum up and move it a little bit more to the left. And now I have suddenly created this hole of space to move into. As I take right knee, left knee across to the right side of the body. we're not quite sure where to put our minds, we could come back to our sinking breath, inhaling, noticing a lift, and exhaling, noticing that lowering sensation. Or we may like to count the breath again. Inhaling 1, 2, 3. Exhaling 3, 2, 1. When you feel like this side matches the first side, we are ready to come back in. And let's have one more chance to do some kind of free-flowing movement. Again, maybe windshield wiping, knees to chest, a long stretch, or anything else you think you need. And now we'll move into our final relaxation. So you may have a favorite relaxation pose. We can stay simply lying on our backs. If you are ready to get into bed, of course, that's always an option. I know lots of us have a favorite with legs up the wall. We can always do that. Or cheat and do legs on a chair or on the edge of your bed or a couch, whatever you have nearby. So that we have this elevation that again helps with this downward kind of energy. If you find you're up many times in the night to use the bathroom, this one might help, depending on why you're up to pee so often. But if you have swelling in the legs, it can help return that fluid to our organs that then process and release. So let's find some kind of position to be in to be comfortable. Traditionally in yoga, we lie on our backs with the arms and the legs quite wide. But for you, that may not be the position of the most comfort. So please do feel free at any point to roll to one side, lie on your belly like we did earlier, or any other way of being comfortable that you would like. I will sit up just to better project my voice to you. That is also an option for you if you prefer. Sitting is more conducive to focus than to sleep, so I'll leave that up to you. And let's do one more here to release any lingering tension. So we'll go through a variation of a tense and release exercise. You may know this as a progressive relaxation, in which we sort of scan the body and we practice squeezing different areas and then releasing that tension. It can often highlight areas of tension that you didn't even realize were tense. It can be a great way to build body awareness, create a mind-body connection, or again, burn up some of that excess restless energy. Let's start for today with the muscles of our faces. Bringing our awareness to the muscles of our face. And then we can go ahead and, like we've just eaten a very sour lemon, scrunch up all the muscles of our face. We can press the tongue to the roof of the mouth. Kind of purse our lips. We can even clench our jaw. You may naturally be a jaw clencher during the day, so you're trying to avoid it all the time. Let's maybe go ahead and relieve some of that desire. Clench, and then release on purpose. Letting that go, letting the muscles of our face go slack and the tongue fall away from the roof of the mouth. We may like to open and blink the eyelids a couple times. Let's do that a couple more times. We'll take a breath in. Squeeze and clench. Take a breath in and hold. And then when we're ready on an exhale, we release all that muscular tension. Let's move that same pattern through the body. So noticing our upper bodies. Squeezing the upper body, a tense fist, squeeze our chest and back. We can tighten up our abdominal muscles, shoulders to the ears, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. And then when we're ready on an exhale, we can let that all go. We can do that a couple more times, tensing maybe the face again with the rest of the upper body. Squeeze, 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 super tight. We hold the squeeze with an inhale. And when you're ready, letting it go on an exhale. Let's do the same with the lower body. Really squeezing the muscles of our bum and calves, thighs, feet. We can hold it for a couple rounds of breath. And when we're ready, with an exhale, maybe opening the mouth, sigh and release. We can do the same to tense the muscles in the back of the body by pushing down through whatever's on the floor. So pushing our shoulders back into the floor, pushing the back of the arms and our heels down into the floor, tensing the back of the body. Same pattern, squeeze, hold a round of breath. When we're ready, release on an exhale. Feel free to keep going with this tense and release as long as you like. So you might notice there's still a lot of tension in your body and you want to move this pattern around to different parts of your body. If you would like, we can come back, even though you're lying on the floor, we still have the option to hold our Apana mudra, so thumb and middle two fingers together, but with the backs of the hands lying on the floor beside you. Sometimes we sort of feel like we're in free fall when we're lying down. That's why those hot stone massages are really nice, where they put a hot stone in each hand. It can feel nice to be sort of heavy and weighted, or it can feel nice to have somewhere to plant our hands. You could, of course, hold a stone in each hand if you like, or a nice alternative is coming back to this mudra, gently, gently holding thumb and the middle two fingers together. And let's notice all parts of the body that are resting on the floor. Back of the hands, shoulder blades, back of the legs. We'll use our sinking breath again. Inhaling, noticing all parts of the body that are on the floor. And exhaling, allowing the body to sink and fall heavily into the floor. Of course, our actual position doesn't change, but we use this visualization to help us feel heavy and supported. Inhaling, deep breath, we feel a lift. Exhaling, we feel that the ground sort of catches us. We're aware of the earth beneath us and our bodies becoming heavy. Remembering that everything here is optional. You may feel great and want to just sort of passively lie here, kind of like you're lying on the beach. You may like to tense and release or hold that mudra. But I'll give us the option of ladder breathing here. So we started with our 3-part breath. Inhaling, filling our lungs, bottom to top, feeling belly, then ribs, then chest fill, the same way we'd fill a glass of water. And exhaling, emptying out and releasing. We add counting. Inhaling, 1, 2, 3. Exhaling, 3, 2, 1. Option here to lengthen out the breath. So we keep adding on. First we inhale for 3, exhale for 3. When we feel ready, we can inhale for 4, exhale for 4, inhale for 5, exhale for 5, and so on until we finally find a number that feels like a good fit for a deep conscious breath. Well, let's spend about the next minute here continuing with this ladder breathing. Simply counting the length of our inhale and exhale. If it feels good, increasing that length. Scanning the body head to toe. Seeing if we can pick out one area that feels really relaxed, tired, some area of the body that really has this Apana feeling, this downward moving energy, a comfortable, low energy, a place that feels like it's ready to rest. Could be just one small place or many large areas of the body. Well, let's scan the body head to toe, noticing how we're feeling. And seeing if we can pick a word to describe how we feel in this very moment. Forgetting about anything that's happened already and not anticipating anything that's yet to come. And no matter how we're feeling, let's offer ourselves a statement of ahimsa, some kind of non-harming. We may like to place a hand over our hearts, sending ourselves some love. Maybe saying something like, I'm okay. I can be all right with myself. It makes sense that I feel this way. Or I am allowed to feel my feelings. But in some way, validating our own experience in this moment. There is no one right way to feel or be. And we can take both hands to heart or bring hands to heart center. As always, thank you so much for choosing to spend this time here with me and everyone, and thank you to those of you who are maybe rewatching or watching for the first time on this replay, but wherever you are, the light in me honors and recognizes the light in you. So we are one. Namaste.